I never thought I'd find myself sitting here, typing out the details of my life to strangers, but here I am. My name is Mark, and I'm about to share a story that makes me feel like a fool. It's about my wife, Sarah, and a strange melody that tied her to someone else, a secret lover I never saw coming. We married 5 years ago in a small, charming ceremony that felt perfect at the time. Sarah was radiant, and I thought we had built a solid foundation. First, everything was great. We shared laughter and dreams about our future. But slowly, things began to change. The little signs crept in like uninvited guests. She started spending more time at work, long hours that shifted from occasional to routine. I'd call her during the day, and sometimes she wouldn't answer. When she did, her voice felt distant, almost rehearsed, like she was reading from a script. One day, I found an unfamiliar lipstick in the pocket of her jacket while putting it in the wash. It was a deep red shade, unlike any color she owned. I confronted her about it, and she laughed it off, claiming it must have belonged to a friend she had met for coffee. I wanted to believe her, but a nagging voice in my head whispered that something wasn't right. Then there were the nights when she'd come home late, reeking of a scent I couldn't place, something floral and intoxicating. I asked her about it, and she claimed it was just a new perfume she had bought. But the way she brushed off my concerns made my stomach churn. To her, it was all just casual, but I felt something darker lurking beneath the surface. The real turning point came on a Saturday morning when she was humming a tune I didn't recognize. It was an odd, almost haunting melody that resonated through the house. I stopped dead in my tracks and listened, my heart racing. Something about that song felt off, as if it belonged to someone else, someone she was hiding. I didn't want to assume the worst, but I couldn't shake this growing sense of dread. After hours of tossing and turning, I grabbed my laptop and started digging. I found nothing at first, just the normal life we'd built together, photos, plans, and mundane conversations. But I stumbled upon her email account while trying to get into her phone, and there it was, a thread of messages with someone named Jake. The exchanges were flirtatious, full of inside jokes and references to late-night meetups I had never known about. My heart sank as I read the words that confirmed my worst fears. She was cheating on me. I couldn't believe it. My hands shook, and I felt a heavy weight settle in my chest. I thought about the life we shared, the vows we took, and the dreams we built. She was betraying everything we had, and for what? A man I didn't even know. I decided I had to confront her. I couldn't let this go unaddressed, not now that I had the evidence. When she came home that night, I knew it was time. I waited until she was settled, her laughter echoing through the room as she recounted a story from work. It felt surreal, like I was living someone else's nightmare. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. She looked up, confusion crossing her face, but there was a flicker of guilt in her eyes. "What's wrong?" she asked. Feigning innocence, I pulled out my phone and showed her the emails. "What is this?" Her face paled as she began to stammer excuses, trying to downplay everything. "Mark, it's not what you think. I was just being friendly. You know how it is in the office." But I wasn't buying it. I knew her too well by then. I wanted to scream, to shake her and make her see the damage she was causing. Instead, I felt like I was unraveling piece by piece as she continued to lie right in front of me. That confrontation changed everything. My mind was racing with emotions, anger, betrayal, sadness. I felt hollow, like someone had ripped out my heart and replaced it with a gaping void. It was hard to breathe, hard to think. I had trusted her, and she had shattered that trust like it was nothing. As the initial shock wore off, I found myself on a journey of emotional turmoil. First anger, then sorrow, followed by an unsettling acceptance of the reality I was facing. I never knew how much pain betrayal could cause. I had a choice to make about how I wanted to move forward. Would I fight for our marriage, or was it time to let go of the woman I once adored? The answer seemed so complicated when the truth felt so simple. I sat there, feeling like a stranger in my own life. I had to decide what I wanted and what that meant for our future, to be continued. The confrontation left me reeling. After Sarah's feeble excuses, I retreated to the living room where I felt suffocated by the memories surrounding me, photos of happier times, the wedding album sitting on the coffee table, and the scent of her perfume lingering in the air like a ghost. I tried to make sense of it all, but my thoughts were racing. The betrayal was fresh, like a wound still bleeding. I felt like a ship lost at sea, tossed around by waves of anger and hurt. That night, sleep evaded me. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, going over every moment of our relationship, searching for signs that I had missed. My mind drifted to the nights she came home late, her excuses seeming less innocent now. Was she really at work, or was she with him? I gritted my teeth, a mix of rage and sadness boiling within me. I couldn't understand how someone could be so callous, so willing to throw away what we built for a fling with this Jake. By morning, I decided I needed clarity. I needed to gather my thoughts and, more importantly, some evidence. I dug deeper into Sarah's life, going through her social media and even her phone when she left it unattended. I discovered photos and messages that were even more incriminating than the emails. It was like peeling back layers of deceit, and each one cut deeper than the last. It was clear that Sarah had been living a double life. One message struck me particularly hard. It read, "Can't wait to see you tonight, just the two of us." My heart sank as I realized how personal and intimate their exchanges were, filled with references to moments we had shared, but twisted into something sordid. It was like a knife twisting in my gut, and I felt like I was drowning in betrayal. I could feel the anger rising to the surface again. I needed to confront her, not just to express my pain, but to take back some control in a situation that had left me feeling powerless. I devised a plan. I would set a trap, a scenario to catch her in her lies once and for all. I wanted proof of her infidelity beyond what I had already found. A few days later, I feigned ignorance about knowing anything concerning her affair. I wanted her to feel comfortable, free to slip up and reveal more than she intended. Sarah, always the social butterfly, had planned a dinner out with friends that Friday night. I had already decided to follow her. It was risky, and part of me hesitated. Was this the right move? But I was desperate for closure, for answers, to see for myself if she would meet Jake. That evening, I waited until she left the house, dressed to the nines, her hair cascading over her shoulders. I followed her, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. My mind raced as I thought about what I might witness, but I couldn't turn back. I parked a few blocks away from the restaurant she had mentioned and waited. I watched as Sarah entered the establishment, the bright lights illuminating her smile, the way she carried herself with confidence. It was troubling to see her looking so alive and free, completely unaware of the turmoil brewing within me. I waited, fidgeting with my hands, the seconds stretching into what felt like an eternity. About 30 minutes later, I saw him, a tall guy with dark hair, casually dressed but with an air of arrogance about him. Just as I feared, he walked up to her, and I felt my blood boil. They greeted each other with a familiarity that sent a wave of nausea through me. The way they smiled, leaned in close, and shared laughter made my heart ache. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know what they were saying. I got out of my car and approached the restaurant, positioning myself just outside the window. It felt surreal, standing there like a voyeur, but I needed answers. As I peered inside, I caught snippets of their conversation, her laughter rising above the noise. The sight of her so engrossed in conversation with this man made my stomach turn. They were sharing a bottle of wine, and I watched as he leaned in closer, whispering something in her ear that made her blush. The scene felt like a punch to the gut. She was looking at him the way she used to look at me, with adoration and excitement. In that moment, I felt like I was shattering. I didn't just want to confront her. I wanted to scream, to expose her for the lie she had created. But I also knew I had to remain calm and collected. I had to find a way to confront her that would leave no room for excuses. I snapped a few photos on my phone, the evidence solidifying what I already felt in my gut. I watched until I saw her lean in to kiss him on the cheek, something intimate, something reserved for lovers. I stayed there until they left the restaurant together, holding hands as they walked to his car. My heart sank deeper than I thought possible. I felt like a ghost, haunting my own life, watching the woman I loved slip away into the arms of another man. On the drive home, I felt numb. The reality of the betrayal weighed heavily on my shoulders, but I made a decision. I would confront her again, but this time I would be armed with the truth. I would no longer be the victim, I would reclaim my narrative. The scene played over and over in my head, the laughter, the kiss, the connection she shared with him. I drove home in silence, my mind racing with thoughts. I was done with the lies. I was ready to confront her with everything I had seen and felt. The moment I walked through the door, I knew it was time to end this charade. I wasn't just a man hurt by betrayal, I was ready to fight back. To be continued. I hardly slept that night. The images of Sarah and Jake lingered in my mind, refusing to let me rest. I felt like I was carrying a heavy weight, and the anger was bubbling within me, ready to explode. I paced around the house, thinking about the confrontation I would have with her. I wanted to make sure I had all my emotions in check. I didn't want this to turn into a yelling match. I needed to be calm, collected, and ready to present the undeniable truth. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of purpose. I prepared myself for the conversation I would have with Sarah. I wanted to catch her off guard, to lay all the cards on the table without giving her an opportunity to deflect. After all, she had been lying to me for weeks, if not months. I was done with her excuses. When she came down for breakfast, she looked beautiful as always, her hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders. I tried to ignore the pang of affection that shot through me. How could I still feel that way about her after everything? But I shook it off. I had to focus on the task at hand. "Hey, Mark," she chirped, pouring herself a cup of coffee. "What are your plans for today?" I took a deep breath, knowing that what I was about to say would shatter the facade of our daily lives. "We need to talk, Sarah." Her smile faded slightly, and she sensed the gravity in my tone. "Okay, what's wrong?" I sat at the table, the chair creaking under my weight as I leaned forward, staring into her eyes. "I know about Jake." Her reaction was immediate. The color drained from her face, and she froze, the coffee cup almost slipping from her hand. "What do you mean?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I had taken. "This. I saw you two together last night. You were holding hands, laughing, and looking like you were having the time of your life." She looked at the screen, her eyes widening in shock, and her mouth opened as if to speak, but nothing came out. I watched her process the moment, and as the realization hit her, the facade began to crack. "Mark, I can explain," she stammered, her voice shaking. "It's not what you think. I just— "No, Sarah," I interrupted, holding up my hand. "You were just cheating on me. There's no explanation that justifies betraying our marriage." She opened her mouth to protest, but I wasn't finished. "You've been lying to me. You've been sneaking around while I've been here waiting for you. I deserve better than this, and we both know it." Tears welled in her eyes, but I felt no sympathy. "Mark, please, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen," she pleaded, her voice rising. "I was confused, and Jake he was there for me when you were." Her words struck a nerve. "I've been here. What do you mean I wasn't there for you? You're the one who shut me out, who started lying. I tried to talk to you about what was happening, and you brushed me off every time." I know, I was scared," she cried, her voice thick with emotion. "It just happened. I didn't plan for it." "Do you love him?" I asked, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. She hesitated, and in that moment I knew my answer. "Mark, please, it's complicated. I care about him, but I love you. Love is not supposed to be complicated, Sarah. It's not supposed to feel like this." I felt my heart breaking all over again, but I couldn't let her see how much this hurt. "You need to decide what you want. You can't have both." Her face contorted with frustration, and I could see the inner turmoil she was grappling with. "I didn't want to hurt you. I just got caught up in something and didn't know how to stop it." "And now what?" I shot back, my voice rising. "Do you want to keep lying? Are you going to run back to him?" "Mark, please," she sobbed, her face in her hands. "I can fix this. Just give me a chance. I'll cut him out of my life, I swear." I took a deep breath, the reality of our situation weighing heavily on me. I could see the genuine remorse in her eyes, but could I trust her? The betrayal had cut deep, and the wound was still fresh. "Trust you? I don't know," she whispered, and with that the finality settled between us. Silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. I felt a whirlwind of emotions swirling within me: anger, sadness, betrayal, and a flicker of hope. A part of me wanted to believe her, to take her back and rebuild what we had lost. But the other part, the one that had been broken, screamed at me to walk away. "Sarah," I said slowly, my voice firm. "I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know. Can move past this." She looked up, tears streaming down her face. I will do whatever it takes to make it right, just give me a chance. There it was, one last plea, one last attempt to salvage what she had destroyed. It was tempting, but I felt the weight of her betrayal hanging over us like a dark cloud. I took a step back, realizing I had a decision to make. Could I forgive her? Could I truly rebuild our relationship after everything that had happened? Or was it time to cut my losses and walk away? The silence stretched on as I weighed my options. I thought about our life together, but now it felt tainted. I needed to consider what was best for me, not what Sarah wanted or needed. I need time, I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. I can't give you an answer today, I need to think. Her face fell and she nodded, understanding that the road ahead would be difficult. Okay, she said, her voice small. I'll give you time. As I walked away from the table, I felt a sense of relief, mixed with heartache. I didn't know what the future held for us, but I knew I had to take care of myself first. The journey ahead would be hard, but I was ready to face it, to be continued. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions, punctuated by silence that hung heavy in the air. Sarah and I lived under the same roof, but it felt like we were strangers. I went through the motions of daily life, work, chores, and the occasional forced conversation, but any semblance of normalcy was shattered. The ache in my chest refused to fade, a constant reminder of the betrayal I had experienced. I tried to focus on myself during this time. I started hitting the gym regularly, running away the pent-up anger and frustration. I even reconnected with some old friends, the ones I had slowly drifted away from during the course of our marriage. They listened patiently as I recounted the twisted tale of Sarah's infidelity, offering their support and a listening ear. But deep down, I felt lost, trapped in a limbo of confusion and sadness. One evening, after a particularly grueling workout, I decided to take a walk around the neighborhood. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a silver glow over everything. I found solace in the familiarity of the streets and the rhythmic crunch of gravel under my shoes. As I walked, my mind drifted to the decision I would have to make. Would I confront Sarah again? Would I give her another chance? I had spent so much time considering her feelings, but what about mine? I had to prioritize my own emotional well-being. I couldn't keep living in this state of half-truths and unspoken words. When I got home, Sarah was sitting on the couch, her eyes glued to the television, but the glow of the screen didn't seem to hold her attention. I hesitated for a moment, then plopped down on an armchair across from her. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hey," she replied quietly, her gaze still fixed on the TV. The silence that followed was thick and uncomfortable. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts before speaking. "I've been thinking a lot lately, about us, about everything." She turned her head slightly, her eyes searching mine for any hint of what I was about to say, and I need to know if you're truly committed to making this work, I said, my heart racing. I mean really committed, because if there's any part of you that still wants to be with him, then we shouldn't waste each other's time. Her expression shifted, a mixture of fear and urgency washing over her face. "Mark, I'm done with him. I made a mistake. I want us to work. I swear I'll do whatever it takes." "Words are easy, Sarah. I need actions. I need to feel like you're all in. You've shattered my trust, and I'm not sure if I can ever get it back. You need to prove to me that you really want this." "I will," she insisted, her voice rising with desperation. "Just give me a chance to show you. I'll start by cutting him off completely. I'll block him from everything. I'll even change my job if I have to." Her determination was palpable, but I was still hesitant. "This isn't just about cutting him off, Sarah. You need to figure out why you did this in the first place. We can't just sweep everything under the rug and pretend it didn't happen. We need to unpack this together." "Okay, I understand," she nodded, wiping tears from her cheeks. "I'll do therapy too. I need to understand why I let it go that far. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this." I watched her, torn between the flicker of hope she was offering and the reality that lingered in the back of my mind. I wanted to believe her, but the hurt was still so fresh. I don't want to rush back into anything. I can't just turn off my feelings, you know. "I get it," she said softly, her eyes filled with sincerity. "I'm willing to wait as long as it takes, but I need you to meet me halfway." We sat in silence for a moment, the tension slowly easing between us, though the scars of betrayal remained. "Let's take it one step at a time. I finally said, feeling a mix of apprehension and relief. We can start with counseling. We need to address the problems that led to this in the first place. Thank you, she whispered, and for the first time in weeks, it felt like we were on the same page. Over the next few weeks, we began the long process of rebuilding our relationship. We attended couples therapy where we both shared our feelings, fears, and regrets. It wasn't easy. Every session felt like peeling back layers of pain, exposing raw emotions that had been buried for far too long. But there was progress, slow and steady. Sarah began to take her commitment seriously. She cut off all ties with Jake, deleting his number and blocking him on social media. It was a small but necessary step, one that showed she was willing to put in the effort to earn back my trust. We also made an effort to reconnect on a deeper level. We started doing things we used to enjoy together, cooking dinner, going for walks, and even binge-watching our favorite shows. Slowly but surely, I began to see glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, but each moment was clouded by the shadow of her betrayal. Despite the progress, there were still hard days. I'd catch myself replaying those moments of infidelity in my mind, her laughter with Jake, the way she looked at him. I realized that trust wasn't something that could be rebuilt overnight. It would take time, patience, and a willingness from both sides to face the ugly truth of our situation. One evening, after a particularly intense counseling session, we returned home feeling emotionally drained. "I'm really trying to change, Mark," Sarah said, her voice low. "I know I messed up, but I want to be better for you. I've learned so much about myself through this process." "I appreciate that," I replied, wondering if we could truly move past this. "But it's going to take time. I still have my doubts." "I understand," she said, a hint of sadness in her voice. "Just know that I'm committed to this. I don't want to lose you." As I looked into her eyes, I saw a flicker of hope. Maybe we could make it work. Maybe we could find a way to rebuild. But the journey would be long, and I wasn't sure how deep the scars ran, to be continued. The weeks turned into months, and while Sarah and I were making strides towards mending our relationship, the road was anything but smooth. We attended therapy sessions regularly, and while they helped, they also forced us to confront the uncomfortable truths about our marriage. I had my moments of weakness, where anger and sadness would wash over me like a tidal wave, leaving me questioning if I was truly strong enough to forgive and move forward. One night, after a particularly rough counseling session, I sat on the couch, my mind racing. The therapist had pushed us to dig deeper into our feelings, and I was left feeling raw and exposed. Sarah was in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner, and I could hear her humming softly, that strange melody from before creeping back into my mind. It was a haunting reminder of the woman she had become during her affair, and I struggled to shake it off. "Hey," I called out, trying to keep my tone neutral, "can we talk?" "Sure," she replied, drying her hands on a dish towel. She walked over and sat beside me, her eyes searching my face for any clue about what I was feeling. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened," I said slowly, feeling the weight of my words. "About trust and honesty. I want to believe you, I really do, but it's hard and I need to know you understand what you've done." "I do," she said, her voice steady. "Every day I think about how I hurt you. I've been working hard to change, and I will keep doing whatever it takes to rebuild our trust." "I still have this fear in the back of my mind," I confessed, looking down at my hands. "What if you slip up again? What if this was just a phase and you go back to your old ways?" The fear lingered there like a shadow I couldn't shake off. "I promise you it won't happen again," she said, inching closer and taking my hand. "I'm committed to this. I know I messed up, but I've seen the damage I caused. I don't want to go back to that place. I want us to be happy like we used to be." Her sincerity tugged at something inside me, but doubt still lingered. "I want that too, but I need time to process everything. I don't want to rush into anything before I feel ready." "I understand," she nodded, biting her lip. "I just hope you know how much I care about you and how serious I am about making things right." The conversation hung in the air between us, both of us aware of the fragile state of our relationship. It was like walking a tightrope. One misstep could send us tumbling into the abyss of heartbreak again. But as the days passed, I found myself cautiously optimistic. Sarah was making evident efforts to show me her commitment, and I could see her trying to be more open and honest about her feelings, even when it was uncomfortable. One afternoon, as we were cleaning out the garage, I came across an old box filled with keepsakes from our early relationship, concert tickets, love letters, and photos of happier times. I pulled out a picture of us from our honeymoon, both of us beaming with joy, a stark contrast to the shadows that lingered over us now. "Look at us," I said, holding up the photo. "We were so happy." Sarah walked over, and I could see the nostalgia wash over her face as she gazed at the picture. "I remember that day. I thought we were invincible," she said softly, her voice tinged with regret. "We can be again," I offered, a sense of hope flickering inside me. "It's going to take work, but I believe we can find our way back to that joy." Her eyes softened and she nodded. "You're right. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get us back to that place. I don't want to lose you." In the coming weeks, we took small steps towards healing. We started setting aside time for date nights, attempting to rekindle the spark that had dimmed in the wake of her betrayal. We explored new restaurants, went hiking, and even took dance lessons together. It felt like we were rediscovering each other, and the laughter began to flow a little more freely. But there were still moments that reminded me of the pain. One evening, while scrolling through my phone, I came across a social media post from Jake. He was in a relationship, and my heart sank. The image showed him laughing with a new girlfriend, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy and anger. How could he move on so easily when I was still grappling with the aftermath of their affair? I shared my feelings with Sarah that night, and she listened intently as I vented my frustrations. "I can't believe he's already dating someone else," I said, my voice heavy with resentment. "It makes me feel like I was nothing to him." "You were never nothing to me," she said firmly, squeezing my hand. "What I did was wrong, and I'm so sorry, but I'm here with you and I'm committed to making this right. You're the one I want." Those words meant the world to me, yet they were mixed with fears I couldn't shake. I realized that even though we were making progress, scars remained. I still had to confront my own feelings of inadequacy and betrayal. It became clear to me over time that I needed to find a way to express and process my emotions, so I decided to write about my experiences. Each night, I would sit down with my journal, pouring out my thoughts, my feelings, and my fears onto the pages. It became a cathartic release, allowing me to untangle the mess of emotions within me and confront the reality of our situation. As summer approached, we found ourselves at a crossroads. I felt like I was beginning to heal, but Sarah still had a long road ahead. I could see her making strides, but the lingering questions remained. Was she truly committed to changing? How could I trust she wouldn't slip back into old patterns? I began to realize that trust is a fragile thing. It takes time to build but can shatter in an instant. I had to decide whether I was willing to embrace this second chance and see where it led, or if the wounds were too deep to heal completely. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, I turned to Sarah. "I think we're making progress, but I need to know how you see our future. What do you want for us?" Her expression was thoughtful, and she took a moment before responding. "I want to be with you, Mark. I want to rebuild what we had and create something even stronger. I know it won't happen overnight, but I believe in us." I held her gaze, feeling a flicker of hope. Maybe we could find our way back to the happiness we once shared. But I also knew it would require hard work, patience, and a commitment to confronting the past. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow around us, I felt the weight of uncertainty lift ever so slightly. I wasn't ready to fully embrace the future yet, but I was willing to take it one day at a time. To be continued. As summer rolled into fall, the air turned crisp, and with it came a renewed sense of hope. Days turned into weeks, and I noticed Sarah's efforts more and more. She was consistently attending therapy, working through her feelings and actions, not just in sessions, but also at home. It was clear she was trying to reclaim the trust she had shattered. Yet, the lingering questions remained. Trust is not easily regained, and I still found myself grappling with the shadows of doubt that haunted my thoughts. But I also learned that relationships require vulnerability, and I had to confront my own fears. One evening after dinner, we sat in our living room, the flickering candlelight casting soft shadows around us. I looked at Sarah, who was nervously fidgeting with a ring on her finger. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," I began, gauging her reaction. "About us?" she asked, her eyes wide with anticipation. "Yeah," I said, taking a deep breath. "I think we've come a long way since that day I confronted you, but I need to know if you're still committed to this, to us." "More than ever," she replied, her sincerity evident. "I know I made a terrible mistake, and I've been working hard to understand why I did it. I want to make things right, and I want to grow with you." Her words washed over me like a balm, but I still had to dig deeper. "What if we had this conversation a year from now? Where do you see us? What do you want for our future?" She took a moment, searching for the right words. "I want us to be stronger than before. I want to build a life together filled with trust, laughter, and love. I want to have a family, grow old together, everything we dreamed about. But I know it's going to take time, and I'm willing to put in the work." There was a glimmer of hope in her eyes, and for the first time in a long while I felt a flicker of optimism spark within me too. "I want that too," I admitted, my voice catching. "But it's going to require both of us to be completely open and honest. No more secrets, no more lies." "I promise," she said, reaching across the table to take my hand. "I've learned my lesson the hard way. I don't want to hurt you again." We spent the rest of the evening talking about our dreams, our fears, and everything in between. It felt refreshing to finally open up without fear of judgment. I realized that while the scars of the past were still there, they didn't have to dictate our future. As the leaves started to change colors, we began to make new memories, slowly but surely rebuilding our lives together. We took weekend trips, enjoyed lazy Sundays, and laughed more than I thought possible. I could see Sarah making an effort to be transparent. She shared her thoughts without hesitation, and I reciprocated. It was a delicate dance, but we were both committed to it. There were moments when the ghost of Jake would surface, and I would feel that familiar twinge of anger and betrayal. But instead of letting it fester, I learned to voice my feelings. I would tell Sarah how certain things would trigger memories, and she was always understanding, never dismissive. It was in these moments of vulnerability that I began to understand the depth of our bond. One night while watching a movie on the couch, I turned to her and said, "You know, I really think we have a chance at this. I can see the effort you're putting in, and it means a lot to me." "Thank you," she replied, her eyes sparkling with warmth. "It hasn't been easy, but I'm determined to prove to you that I can be the partner you deserve." As we moved into winter, the holidays approached, and I found myself reflecting on how far we had come. One chilly evening, while decorating the house for Christmas, I looked at Sarah hanging ornaments on the tree, her laughter filling the room. It struck me how much I had missed that sound, the carefree joy that made me fall in love with her in the first place. In that moment, I realized that while the journey of healing was ongoing, I was no longer living in the past. Yes, the scars remained, but they were reminders of our growth and resilience. We were being forged anew, and with every challenge we overcame together, our bond deepened. On Christmas Eve, as we nestled on the couch wrapped in blankets, I turned to her with a light in my eyes. "I think we should talk about the future more seriously." Her expression shifted, excitement dancing in her features. "What do you mean?" "I mean about us, our future together," I said, my heart racing. "I want to take the next step. I want to build a life with you, Sarah, if you're still willing to fight for it." "More than anything," she replied, her eyes glistening with tears of joy. We both knew it wasn't going to be perfect, but now that we were willing to face our past, there was hope for a brighter future. The holidays passed with warmth and laughter, and by the time New Year's rolled around, we celebrated not just with friends and family, but also with a renewed commitment to each other. We made resolutions not only to better ourselves, but to continue nurturing our relationship. As the clock struck midnight, we stood together, holding hands with an air of anticipation. "To new beginnings," I toasted, my heart swelling with hope. "To us," she smiled, and in that moment I felt the weight of the past lift, replaced by the promise of our future. I knew we had a long way to go, but together we were ready to face whatever came next. The journey was far from over, but we were no longer defined by the mistakes we made. We were two people who had learned, grown, and fought for each other, and as we stepped into the new year, I realized that maybe love, even when tested, could emerge stronger than ever.